So we were just talking about the secret meetings of these self-imposed corporations who I like to imply that they're your council, just go around and do whatever the hell they like, such as putting 5G transmitters up, 5G lights, windmills, desecrating your environment. And this particular area here where I am has been utilized for eons, really, for the energy that it creates. This particular company had a secret meeting, Mytilinaeus Alpha Epsilon, which is actually Greece, which is a company that has stolen the aluminium resources from here, along with the corporations that have done this. Same thing with other resources. They're the Nazis. Obviously, they've turned themselves into corporations in 1934 with the Securities Exchange Commission Act and the Indenture Act, and made it so that, yes, they took it by force, but they kept it by consent. This has been an ongoing battle because they murdered the whole village here because they put up a fight against the Nazis, massacred everybody in the town, and they've got monuments to it. And they still all pay their taxes to it. Got 1,000 people workforce every night. They're toxifying this amazing place, pumping out huge amounts of aluminium into the atmosphere. You can't see the stars by midnight some nights because of what they're doing. People who work there have said that they are doing it to try to get the factory shut down. So, because obviously, yes, all right, I work there, but it's through need, through necessity. And this is where kindness credits and the restoration comes in, obviously sitting down there next door to that, exemplifying what you can actually do with the access to resources. No contract required with any private corporation that is coming in and killing you for profit. So they've had a meeting, this company, who the mayor actually works for and is part-time. He's obviously got stocks and shares in the company, and obviously, makes all of the decisions, such as allowing these 5G transmitters and what have you to be put up without a license. So the community, have kicked back again just recently with having this information given to them regarding the fact that Hellenic Republic and Greece are two completely separate titles, let's say. They refer to the same thing, but they are not the same conveyance, if you like. They're not the same structure. So they turned around in the meeting, apparently, when the controlled opposition raised an objection to the fact that they were going to now claim all of the area here as theirs, because they're now providing the electricity. Well, it's been electricity provided from here by Earth from the beginning, probably, which is why they've come and trespassed on it in so many different ways. So I think I might have told you about the bin appeared, the rubbish bin appeared. We're just recording and your face has just popped up. Not that it's a problem for us, but hello and goodbye. So, they had this meeting. We didn't find out about this meeting. Obviously, they didn't tell us. If they'd have told us this individual was coming, we would have arrested him for aiding and abetting, supporting terrorism. And that's why it was all done on the QT, the quiet title. And then how we realised something was going on was that suddenly a bin turned up, a green big, one of the refuse bins, and it's got Mytilinaeus Alpha Epsilon stamp on it, and people putting their rubbish in it. And I just said, you don't realise what it is that you're doing. So you've got all of these people down there who are supposed to be from millennial to Lennoxis, and we've got our values and we're awake and we don't need a government and all this lot, even though our political party is actually registered in their system. So and we're really doing what it is that they want us to do, which is to withhold information. So this tonight's Zoom is about that. Is you have not got a right to withhold any of this information. If you know something that unshackles your chains and you re-chain somebody to chains unnecessarily for them, instead of offering them a packet, then really you're worse. You're as bad as the Vatican, and you're worse, because you have got the tools and the knowledge to be able to set somebody free, yet you choose to enslave them. So it doesn't matter whether you're the government or the private corporation pretending to be a government, or whether you're somebody who's taken the benefit of this and you haven't paid it or passed it forward or shared it with somebody. For whatever reason, it might be, I don't think I know enough, but whatever it is that you know that's benefited you to that degree, that is enough. Just that whatever benefit it is that you've benefited from by doing whatever step it is that you've done, you are under obligation by universal law, aren't you, to spread the truth about it. So these people who are involved in the controlled opposition, they know all of these things, but they're completely compromised themselves, and they think that they still need slave tokens. I don't know whether that's because of their ignorance to wanting to learn what it is that I can do about all this information, because they just go, yeah, well, this is all free knowledge. Everybody knows this. It's all on the internet is the rebuttal that I get now. Well, okay, well, what are you doing about it? You sit there and you say, all these things, and you still carry on doing those things. You still carry on companion on slavery. So they had said that they claimed this. So the controlled opposition said, we need to remind you regarding the way that you got your hands on this, really, about the history and all of this. And when they told me what they'd said afterwards, I just said, look, you've got so much more to serve on them as a packet. It's not about reciting history. They're well aware of how it is they've got their hands on it. It's what it is that you're all now going to do about it as a community, because now you all know these things that are freely available on the internet. So put them into, this is what you've got now is a solution to offer to the people. Compensation package is what you want back. Well, there it is. What is that? Your rights back to not be a slave. No, we want slave tokens. We want them to carry on poisoning the environment, to keep the factory going now, is what I was told the other day, to be able to make the funds to pay the compensation with. And I just looked at them and I said, are you completely insane? Do you want to carry on polluting your own environment, standing there calling yourself, what do they call themselves, anarchist? And so you're an anarchist, but you work in the system, you pay your tax, and when somebody comes to say, let's shut that factory down, you say, no, let's keep it going because we need to pay ourselves by poisoning ourselves more to get some slave tokens out of it. Get out of my way. So that came about because a bin turned up, like I said, all these people putting their rubbish in the bin, that's a contract. So we took out the rubbish, and we've severed the contract. The bin has been reserved, let's say. The offensive item has been removed because we gave them 24 hours notice to remove it, or the ministers would remove it. That was done the other night. The people who serve plastic to people behind the kindness credit sign were put on notice. Well, they were put on notice actually last year when they decided to charge people for the right of use of a toilet that we'd actually made available instead of everybody going in the bushes, and toxifying their environment. And the guy who then had the key decided that if you want the key, you have to buy a beer at €3 a pop. So this guy has had more than enough notice 12 months ago that if they didn't stop doing what they were doing, then it would come to a stop. in this meeting, they were told that this individual was going to be removed from there by then next year. So nothing was mentioned about our restoration. That's not, it's attached to it, it's kind of separate of it, and the road goes through the middle of it that's got gates on it. Those gates are down, and there's public access through to the beach, access to resources. Use the area as car park because it's chaos down there, so many people, not enough space. So there's a lot of rubbish, purely and simply because the guy who's using time as credits is actually selling plastic shit and charging the same price as it would do if it was tax. So again, put on notice. And about the bins, so I went and I just said, look, there is 50 paper cups there, and 50, these are biodegradable, they look like plastic, but they're biodegradable tops. And he said, well, I've got some of them. I said, you need to use those then. Why aren't you using them? Everybody wants plastic. If you haven't got any plastic, what are you going to give them? Paper. So give them that, because what the Universal Law Community Trust is now going to do is we're now going to charge the supplier of the plastic a tax for removing the plastic shit from this beautiful area. It's supposed to be an exemplification of not supporting this terrorist system that toxifies our environment. Here you are creating 20 bags of rubbish of plastic a day, charging people, and you haven't paid, charging people €3, doing the rocks. So there's no, I'm not giving them a discount. I haven't got any tax to pay, no license, no insurance, no, his electricity is free, the car is covered, he got the car back, because all he had to do was translate a document, and it took him a month to do that. So apparently I haven't done anything. So I said that I've done quite enough and reserved my rights from being involved in such a practice any longer, and said that you haven't got the right of use because you're not using it right, very simply. That's gone on now for 3 months. He came marching in and shouted that I have got a debt with him after 2 years of training. I'm supposed to have a debt, and so he was sent on his way, obviously, I know in certain terms. And then because now, obviously, he then went and made a contract with a lawyer. They went and put his electricity off his house immediately. Now this guy's had that on there for 3 years. And by having the trust standing surety, so the shield's up, I painted a sign for him. He wouldn't take the sign down. And so what's been happening is we've been taking rubbish, and I said, right, for each bag of rubbish, because I know how much it is that you're charging, I know how much a coffee costs you, and I know how much plastic cups are, you're going to pay a levy because you haven't put your 10% in anyway. So you can cover the cost of the fuel. I don't mind taking it because I'd rather take it than see it strewn about all over. Or you can have the responsibility to take it away yourself. But we've severed the contract here with the council and any private corporation. So you have to be really conscious of the unconscious contracts that we're making when we put our rubbish in their receptacle, if you like. You're accepting their services as a benefit. You're assigning the consent of my environmental well-being as a trust would have the obligation to stand surety to your environmental well-being if it was a trust. If that corporation had any inclination towards your well-being or your environment's well-being, then it wouldn't be doing what it's doing down there. And so that's where obviously all the aluminium things come from, to put the beer in so he can charge €3 and pay his tax in the shop, because he's actually buying the beer using a Greek ID and getting his, he's getting his tax off there as a business, so he's getting it even cheaper than the recommended retail price. He's not even buying it retail. So I've given him these cups and told him that he needs to use them from now on. Then he tried to give them back to 016 and then 016, and was standing there shouting, they're coming now because she hasn't done anything. And 016 just said, look, if she hasn't done anything, you've gone and told everybody I've heard that you've done all this. This is your idea. This is you're doing. These are your documents that you've created. And this is what it's all down to you. So you don't need her to do anything for you because, and this is in front of everybody. So everybody that he's told that he's actually, this is, so it's a bit like credit where he hasn't shared it, hasn't said, look, she's over there, go and ask her. I've reached, I don't understand it. I just said, okay, accepted all the benefits for it and sat there and told everybody. He actually told people to kiss his, what's it? And said, and went around and said that all of the whole of Greece was his. All sorts of stuff has come out. This isn't for that. It's not, it's supposed to be for cleaning the ego and saying, right, okay, I don't own anything. It's not mine. I'm not making a claim to it. And so I've got the right of use of all of it to use right. That's it. It's not complicated. So, but as soon as you turn around and say, right, I'm going to capitalize on that right of use that I've got, you're screwed. You've immediately stepped into the administrative part of it. So it doesn't matter whether we're, countering the claim. Okay, so they've come then. So the cups have been given back. And 016 is saying, well, here you go, you need those, we need those cups, because otherwise you're going to be charged for the removal of the plastic. So in the end, this guy who we've spent many years helping dived on MFN 016 because he reached the limit of his capacity. He resorted to violence, attacked 016 with these huge fingernails that he's got. And poor 016 looks like he's got twat now written on his head. But obviously he's trained, his ex-forces, and just pushed this guy's nose and threw him on the floor and put his flip-flop on his head. Well, at that point, it was like, when they say that you've got, you love the government's boot on your face. It was like that, but beach style. With you come and you've taken all that's been given to you freely and then resorted to violence behind this sign. So obviously the flip-flop was removed from the head. And this, this is not an exemplification of introducing kindness credits into your community, but when your community get it to the degree that 016 and other events here have got it, they have got something to stand for, because we've passed the benefit on. And so when, in that environment, in that circumstance, in that community, it's not just one flip-flop standing on your head, it's the whole community that you have taxed all this time now, when you could have given them a saving. How wonderful it could have been for all of those youngsters down there to have been able to come, a few more days than their holiday, because their energy had gone further. And people don't realize that, so we've gone on with, because of all of this carry on about the trespass on your rights through these companies usurping and presuming that they've got your consent. Apparently in that meeting, they turned around and said, about the windmills, that you're lucky to the people, that you're lucky that we've offered to pay you. We could just come and done it by force. Well, hang on a minute. First of all, the collateral wasn't peacefully surrendered because you took it by massacring everybody here in 1930, whatever. And then you kept your hands on it by incorporating everybody into this slavery system through the ID. So you've got the assignment of consent of the share of it under fraudulent conditions anyway. And now you're here openly decimating this amazing rock. And and calling it yours and saying that if anybody objects, that you should be lucky that we've offered to pay you slave tokens that have really come from the dividends of the massive amounts of energy that you've been selling and doing God knows what with to you, the corporations. So there is a court order that was made in the international courts regarding this company. And I put it up the other day about Greece. And it says that Hellenic Republic, here unknown as Greece. Now, if it's Greece, then why do you call it Greece? You can't call it Greece because Greece is not a state. Now, they, Hellenic Republic and Italy and Germany have all got their corporate states that make them unalienable. They have state immunity. And when you read the document, obviously it's just an empty portal, another empty portal, where they've said that you can come to the court, the international court, but you can't say anything. We're only going to refer to, and the only thing that Greece can speak about as Hellenic Republic in this corporate state jurisdiction. I mean, if that's not so obvious to people, that there is clearly a distinction between these two things. They are not the same thing, because if they are, they'd have the same name, wouldn't they? So they were allowed, given permission, to only refer to the case that was considered by the Greek court that said, yes, that Germany was guilty. So that so this is between Germany and Italy. The outcome of this order is actually that Germany owes Italy all of its trains as compensation. What's happened about that? Absolutely jack shit, because it's all, and it's just a laundry service of lawyers and accounting and legislation and writing the code, and then not performing it. So why on earth are we supporting anything that looks like that? So meet your new bin woman. It is. I've been removing bins. I've got this file. I didn't want to keep it on here too long because I've got to go back down there before they usurp us with the bin, with the rubbish. If they take the rubbish, then that's them. All that email, they've been put on notice. They're the CEO, been put on notice about the restoration of rights, and this is notice to the chief executive of all corporations that are licensed as Alpha, Epsilon, anonymous entities through Hellenic Republic, that you're all secured anyway. As it turned out, while I was looking to see how it was that we would be able to apply this to the Ministry of Remedy, for them to give us a remedy as a community, it turns out that we've already got it. We're already secured party to them, and the fact that they define themselves as Hellenic Republic and joined Greece to it is that in their own writing, the example that all that anybody really needs to see and get their head around. So with that, obviously out there, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that come to see us this weekend, so we've absolutely been mown out down there. And obviously the fracas ensued. We've also, but loads of people just waking up, bad people screaming, universal law, a community trust on the beach and stuff. I thought, oh my God, I need to get some rocks in case they're coming to get me. And they were all absolutely over the moon because everything was broken yesterday. The appoito, the thing that this golem, if you like, had been keeping, this truth was all out in the open, and the people were responding accordingly. We've been doing Reiki sessions, opening people's communication chakras, and the stuff that was coming out, just everybody got their shit out. And just completely, it was like somebody had orchestrated it. And like I said, it was like, oh my God, I got a couple of rocks. And then as I turned over to go back to do the meditation with these 2 rocks in my hand, just the universe just said, it's just somebody else waking up. You got to get your shit out, guys. And that's So if we've got to go around and clean one another's rubbish up, this offer of settlement wasn't done with kind words. It was there. Look, if you keep putting your rubbish in that bin, that's why they're going to come, because you've given them a contract to come. So don't put the rubbish in the bin. And instead of taking it as, wow, you know, even after all of this, she's still going to come and help me to stop this corporate state coming and kicking me out of here, even after everything I haven't done. And because it's not about you, it's about it's about the bigger picture. It's about the end result. It's about all of these. You know, it's not about one person's ego and whether you can get on with that ego or not. It's a bigger picture in front of it and behind it. That's what you're looking at. So even when you're faced with these people that want to take what it is and do the dirty on it, let's call it. It doesn't stop you focusing still on that big picture and offering a remedy. It's how somebody responds to it, that's obviously down to their determination. So we are now providing the services that the council or the corporation would like to have implied as theirs. And you can all do this. You've got it actually written down in the Localism Act. Is it Localism or Localities Act?
Localism, yeah.
Localism.
It's hard. I mean, it is an empty portal. I looked at this when we set up the community trust first, the land council. It's an empty portal as far as, obviously, if you go to the council with a great idea and say, right, here I am to discharge everybody's liabilities using solar, for example, or discharge everybody's liabilities using their equitable rights to share this planet and its resources, and do you out of a job, of course, that's the right money laundering exercise they've got going on. That's their very existence that you've just offered to lighten them of the burden of, let's say. And they're not going to offer you contracts. The contracts that they'll do go to Siemens and their private corporations, of course. So the only way that you can do it is you have to have your own structure, which is obviously what we've got here. So the community come, apparently the council meeting, they're standing there saying, well, we've got 200 signatures to say that they're now going to excavate all the valley down 2 riverbeds where they've drained or stopped all the water going in there. They've hijacked the water rich source at Panassos from Delphi, all comes down the mountain and goes into their factory. It does what it does with the aluminium, and that's where you do your big aluminium supply from in the water. Goes all piped down to Athens to keep all the slaves down there in their slavery down there, away from their resources, looking for slave tokens, and then piped all the way back up here to come out of the stinking tap here. That when everybody drinks it, every single person who drinks the water here has got Alzheimer's and gallstones and are allergic to, I mean, even one guy yesterday was allergic to everything. Because the water in the food obviously is damaging your intestines and the food. So then seeps out into your bloodstream and you get an allergic reaction to it. You become hypersensitive. So, you know, it is a whole package that everybody's got, that's all out there, and it's just a matter of implementing it. And if anybody turns around and says, well, for you guys over there, if they turn around and say, well, it gives you the right to do this, well, but if we were giving any consideration of having any authority whatsoever to anything that this government has written, then here you are. It's written there. Because of the free enterprise, the monopolies and mergers in the free enterprise, by allowing them to become a privatized corporation, they had to open up the market to allow for competition. Otherwise, it's a monopoly. So obviously we know that that's it's a monopoly, and we know that that's an empty portal. But for the people who love monopoly and empty portals, you can give them that, just like you can give them Justice Stein's order to rebut the presumption that they can use COVID against you in any way, shape or form. And all of the other things that we've got for you to be able to rebut that, rebut the presumption of the jurisdiction of your mind, body and soul in one fell swoop and just pull your own warranty card out. So there's been quite a lot of things going on down there. The line's been drawn in the sand. The offensive item is back where their jurisdiction at the moment is. Now, these people who were supporting this are obviously people who work there, so about 1,000 workers. The council had said we've got 200 signatures. Really? And how many people did you ask? How many people are in this community? You understand that well, it's because they merged all 3 or 4 communities together. I would say there's about 10,000 people. So out of 10,000 people, you've got 200, I'd say you're in the minority, actually. And especially as you haven't told us how many people you've actually asked, are they okay with them excavating yet again the valley to put the electricity lines in to the factory from the windmills? So it's not coming, and then what's it doing? The factory is then going to distribute you your electricity. Isn't that a really cheap? So it was the only place that was open while the COVID scam was at its highest level. So obviously it hasn't got, it's exempt from that. And obviously we know that by keeping the people on lockdown and going around and putting all of these windmills up and stealing the resources and find people with 5G was what the game was all about anyway, to facilitate all of this. The quicker that you do what it is that we're doing here and put this into practice as a whole, instead of, just a handful of people, all you have to do is set your stall out, that's it. And the people who are already thinking these things, who are already on the verge of stepping off, will come to you. But you do have to get your golem out of the way in whatever form it is. If you've got any hesitation, any doubt, it's fear. The golem is the fear. So that guy last night responded in the way he responded because of fear, that he didn't know what to do, and because he's burnt his bridges, or he thought he had. He then, blew himself to smithereens the minute that you lay your hands on another in that way to attack somebody. Now, okay, up to that point, there was a benefit of the doubt that you were really going to do something like that and step over. Now you're breaking the law. So they, whatever the universal law has got stacked up for you, that's not something that we, as beings, minister. That we just get out of the way of our ego, and you actually minister it to yourself. How cool is that? Your self-determination from start to the absolute finish. And so you cannot stand there and at any point and say, you did this to me. You actually exemplified how that could not be possible, that somebody else did this to you. Especially here, because we've got somebody who's saying, I did this all myself. Okay. Well, if you did it all yourself, why are you coming to me and asking me what to do again? If you did it all yourself, go and do it all yourself. And I'm still there to catch you up to the point where you lay hands on another to try to cause harm. At that point, the signs come down. So the sign was physically removed. And I saw exactly what that sign meant. Because we had the Emporio police in there last year, the business police, they called themselves, demanding a copy of the license. Well, we'll show you ours when you show us yours. You haven't got a license to be here. Well, I'm from the Emporio police. Well, you got a contractor who uses slave tokens, and because he uses kindness credits, you're trespassing. And the idiot goes and pulls an old outdated contract out, a license. And she said, as soon as she saw the stamp on it, it's expired. I'm just an employee of Universal Law Community Trust, says the great big man standing there, who thinks that it's all right to punch somebody and scratch somebody because they've reached their level of intellectual capacity. So, be use this with caution. So I can say it's shown to create amazingly positive things when you put yourself in that vibration and you step up with it. But the opposite of that is if you, and we can see it all around us. This is what we've been doing. People say, does it work? What's been working is the opposite of what it is that you want it to work. Did you, everybody says, I want to be free. Okay, here you go. Just stop doing that thing that makes you a slave. No, I can't do that. I need to compound my slavery a bit more to get some more slave tokens to compound my slavery and call myself an anarchist, for example, or call myself free. So, we do have to adjust our settings, if you like, and say, right, okay, where do you stand in this? We've heard it all now. We've had all of everybody has, every single one of us has got all of the same information that's at the end of my fingertips, that's at the end of yours. And they say, I can't do this, I need you to do it. No, you don't. If a document comes through blank, open up the document, such as habeas corpus, for example, open up the document that you can see, print one off and write on it. Or take a piece of paper and write habeas corpus on it. It does not have to be on a Part A. And it does not have to be served. It does not have to have a fee remission certificate. But what they are doing is showing you that they're adding to the administration of the law is what causes you to be unlawfully incarcerated, whether that's longer than 72 hours because they've unlawfully incarcerated you through mistakenly identifying you as a Vatican debt slave. Under the law, there's 72 hours to get you out. The fact that you're still in there after 72 hours, it should be enough, guys, to get you up off your arse and go and arresting those people who are responsible for the administrative code practices that are being practiced in our community and being called law. We are under obligation to do what it is now, not to sit around and say, yes, wouldn't it be great, wouldn't it be lovely if. It really is lovely, it really is great if you lot don't do what it is that you're doing. That's it. So if it is that you want that freedom, and if it is that you want all that change to happen, then you have to go and say, right, okay, paint the thing out on the rubbish bins. Hereford Council, Universal Law Community Trust, organise yourselves, pick up the rubbish, or nail the sodding thing shut and put no plastic. Take your rubbish home with you if you're in a public place. Go and restore the rights to our public places to be plastic free. Go to the shops who are spewing out this plastic shit and restore it. You've got 28 days to get your shit together. Otherwise, as the community, you're going to have to pay your terrorist tax. How do we get that? Well, you're not going to pay us. Okay, well, if they don't give you what it is that they've been taking from the people's energy and supporting bombs and weapons of war with it, here's your rubbish in your shop. There it is. There's your return on your investment. There is your kindness credit tax rebate. Why? Because you made profit out of that. You have capitalized on the resources of this planet and the people, and you've given them shit and then dumped it in a rubbish bin to do what with? To stick it in the earth. Here you go. We've offered you a solution. We'll take it away. Where are we going to take it to? We'll take it to a place where they're already doing these things. Where is that? There's some tip that has been organised by the council, and we're going to clear that up. There's going to be no more plastic anyway, because any business, let's say you're serving coffees out there, suddenly your coffee has now cost you, if it's 20 quid a bin of plastic to take away, bin bag full of plastic, then is it now profitable for you as a business? Does it really have to come to this? Well, yeah, because I like to stretch my buttocks sitting in the corner telling everybody that I'm the king of the world. Oh, how did you do it? And so everybody looking at you like, well, if you knew what you were doing, then you would be telling us. If you knew what you were doing, so a sign's gone up there here they have the signs in their windows and it says, no receipt, you don't pay. You don't get a receipt, you don't pay. That's from their Ecologists of Finance, their Ministry of Finance, their tax. They're a bunch of Nazis, Credit Suisse. So now they've got one up there that says the same thing, because we're the only ones giving out a receipt. The thing that would stop any of this, any kind of, even a meeting about potentially evicting somebody behind a kindness credit sign, is because you haven't done it. You cannot account for yourself. They've sent people in there, we know because the stories come back to us, sent people in there undercover, because I'm saying, no, you can't go in there, you can't do that, you can't do anything to him anyway, because he's using the rocks. Turns out he might use the rocks, but he's not giving you a receipt. So you can't account for it. It's no money exchange. So he had a flip-flop exchange last night. I mean, if it has to come to that, people, it's better to have a flip-flop on your face than obviously the government do. It's still all done with kindness, but it really is absolutely shocking that that we've actually got that kind of mindset still. So somebody's got to actually come and use the same threat against you to say, okay, if you're not going to do it yourself, then well, I'll actually do it. I'll even do it for you. Just put the fuel in the van. Nah. So at that point, then obviously, in comes the university. Look, he set himself up by making, accepting the contract to use the rubbish, by not having a receipt. You need to have a kindness credit receipt for every transaction that you do. That is it. It's a piece of paper for a piece of paper. And even with the chip, it's still, on your card, there's still that piece of paper that comes out of the till. So while it is still paper, and while you still have got an opportunity, a window of opportunity to do something, I would be doing it. I would be going and organising even do it yourself. Get a van and put the rubbish in for your whole street and stick a sticker on it. Your rubbish was collected today by a Universal Law Community Trust for free. Ask your council tax for a rebate. Start them off with that. And make sure people see you doing it. And that's, really the otherwise you're all waiting for one person to tell you. I don't mean me now, I mean such as the people that we had on the other Zoom the other night. There's a community of people and you're all looking at one person to make the contacts for you on behalf of all of you to come now to Universal Law Community Trust, because they have, it's like penned sheep. So they've herded you into common law, syntax, whatever, and all under ecclesiastical deed of surrender stamp now. And now we're going to hold them all these wonderful people in our community hostage until I understand it. Well, then you're as bad as that individual jurisdiction down in the restoration. And, the universe will find its way in the end, as it did with these screaming people, and completely releasing themselves from all of this rubbish that they kept in their lives, screaming stories. I mean, I was trying to meditate, but there it was. We've been doing Gamma and Reiki. So it really is about healing this wound that our indebted minds created. And all we have to do is park the fear somewhere else. Look around you. You keep 10% of every bit of energy. Even if we all go to the bank tomorrow, there's only 10% of the amount in there that is actually supposedly in circulation. You've only got, you're working 100% of the time and you're keeping 10%. Isn't it better to put the 10% of your energy, keep the 90% of your energy to yourself, and think about, okay, well, I can go now, put my 10% in, support the community. I'm then free to be able to turn around and say, okay, what is it that I like to do? And that's what the people are scared of, because we're all conditioned to be told what to do. And so even though I've got all the answers and I'm sitting in my haven, my tax haven shop, I think that there's something that I don't know. So let's go back to the documents. If you get a document and you're going to be involved with the courts, for example, which you all should be, every single individual, especially the events, why don't you still have to have this corpus for the legal fiction yet? For the unlawful incarceration of the administrative code? All of the people listening to this when it goes up, this is the structure. This is the whole shebang. What's the point now? As I'm event, as I'm event, what is that? I haven't got a warranty card. You don't need a warranty card. You're the Minister of Your Own Energy and Matter Movement, aren't you? Okay. I'm a van of the Northwest. I'm a van of rubbish collection. Whatever it is that you want to define yourself as, mistakenly identified as that dead thing, requires a habeas corpus. Bring forth the dead thing and let's have the evidence as to how is it possible that I, this living, breathing minister of my own energy and matter movement, could ever be misidentified as that, and how then could you ever incarcerate me for its trespass and wrongdoings that never really, it couldn't exist. None of those claims could ever possibly exist because they're lodged by a legal fiction against the legal fiction. So who's doing it? You are. By claiming the legal fiction is mine, you just did yourself right over and paid for the privilege of doing yourself over, which is complete psychosis. And the minute that you start to communicate that truth to you, to that part of you that is the mind, that is your heart, already knows this stuff. Connect that to your mind in any way possible, whether you do gamma, whether you do Reiki, whatever it is, the heartfelt feeling moment, find it. Because that is the thing that separates you now from the vaccinated. Because they haven't got that heartfelt feeling thought anymore because of the DNA altering substances. They've all been reset. So they had to, okay, do this, a right of use of this in the way that they presumed it, and we have to come along as a community, as a universal source energy and secure them. You're not an insignificant little speck of shit on someone's shoe. You are an indefinable universal source creator of realities. And that is a fact in this placebo. Why? Because all you have to do is look around you. Look what it is that we created with our belief. The coronavirus is there to show you, look, what you will create just by an unsubstantiated claim. Now, if we can get the whole world to perform under an obligation of performance to something that is unsubstantiated, what does that say about us as a global universal community? That we can't execute our own decisions even when it's staring us in the face. We still don't want to face the truth and say, do you know what? I've been kidding myself and I am wrong. And the minute that you do that, and the minute that you own it, and you admit to yourself that there has been a part of me that has been charging myself and others for the things that I have done and the way that I feel and the choices that I've made, until that point, you've covered all of that. You haven't covered your ass yet as a secured party of anything. So it doesn't matter whether you're having an argument with your missus or your husband, or you've got any confrontation with somebody in the street, that you are unalienable because you've taken all of your rubbish out and looked at it and said, you know what, that's mine, and then some. And I'm sure I'm going to make some more rubbish decisions, choices, circumstances as I make my way through this. And so what you're doing is you're already forgiving yourself. The thing that you used to castigate yourself for, and you've already predetermining that when things are like this, so it will always happen again. So now I'm building up my fear, and fear of the unknown. I'm actually creating a placebo effect that appears real, a vibration of fear. And it looks like this. And so even when somebody comes along and offers you the solution, you still are in fear of it, and you always will be in fear of it until you take that step and execute it for yourself. Nobody can unshackle those chains. They can give you the keys. It's up to you to unlock them. But if you unlock them on yourself, and you don't pass those keys forward, you hold on to them, and you keep everybody else down that line who's associated or attached to you or ever will be in the line of slavery, then let's hope universal law stands surety to you. So we've got